Why don't we see more answers to our prayers? What is prayer? How does faith and prayer work? When the disciples asked Jesus to teach them how to pray, they could have asked any number of things, like how to do that thing with the bread and the fish, or how he raised the dead, or how he healed the sick. They were moved and inspired by every one of those things, I'm sure, but they were rocked by one thing, and that's how did he develop and maintain and walk in a constant connection with God, which is what we call prayer. Whenever he went up to a mountain, they observed that he was different when he came down. Prayer is so important. When I say prayer, I mean conversation, I mean dialogue, two-way dialogue, not a monologue. The number one thing that sets Christianity apart from religion is the born-again experience, when the Holy Spirit comes and your spirit becomes renewed, a new creature. In the original language, it talks about something that didn't exist before. Your spirit joins with the Holy Spirit, and we have the Holy Spirit living in us. Francis Chan says we need fewer voices and more examples. That's the power of prayer. That's the power of getting into God's presence and giving ourselves completely to him, going up the mountain, seeking his face. When we do that, we'll have fewer people talking about the stuff and more people doing the stuff. There'll be less church culture and more radical friends of God doing the things instead of talking about the things. If you want to know how popular a church is, you go Sunday morning. If you want to know how popular the preacher is, you go Sunday night. If you want to know how popular God is, you go to the prayer meeting, and he loses every time. In prayer, it is better to have a heart without words than words without a heart. Your call in life will rise and fall by your prayer life. Charles Spurgeon said, true prayer is measured by weight, not by length. A single groan before God may have more fullness of prayer in it than a fine oration of great length. What a beautiful way to say it. Joshua 1:8 says this, the book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous. You sit in it, you meditate in it. It doesn't leave your mouth. That word meditate in the original language has the image of a cow chewing grass over and over, and we roll it around our head, churning it over and over. Matthew 12:36-37. But I tell you, on the day of judgment, men will have to give account for every idle, inoperative, non-working word they speak. For by your words you will be justified and acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned and sentenced. Elsewhere it says in the Bible that life and death are in the power of the tongue. This is how important words are. This is why my approach to prayer life is sitting there in silence with God and only speaking when he tells me to speak. I find it such a struggle to talk the Christian language you see in so many churches and prayer rooms and church culture, because it's not natural for me and my journey with God. I don't speak to God that way. And it's unnatural for me to go to a church setting where I then start speaking that way. And if you've spent any time in church culture, you know exactly what I mean. 1 Samuel 3:19. So Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground. Imagine walking in that, where everything you ever said happened. He is looking for someone to give that close attention to our words. Jeremiah 5:14. Behold, I will make my words in your mouth fire, and this people wood, and it shall devour them. The power of words. Proverbs 18:21, Amplified. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it and indulge it will eat its fruit. In 1 Thessalonians 5:17, it says, be unceasing and persistent in prayer. He is looking for people of constant, persistent prayer. People like Brother Lawrence in the book, The Practice of the Presence. He talks about having a constant connection with God, and the closest times he had with God was not after fasting for 7 days and going to 3 prayer meetings a week. It was the daily tasks of washing the dishes, cleaning the monastery. It was those things. It was sweeping the floor. That's the time where he will speak to you and you will hear his rhema voice